Fortunately, Belichick won too, but we won't go into that.
No, I was just making noise.
Here we go.
Okay. All right, so basic question. I'm looking at, what are we looking at?
Okay. So what you're looking at here is a variety of the wooden artifacts that we recovered from the beach at Brunswick Town. And these are all individual components of at least 4 different shipwreck sites that we found at the historic waterfront at Brunswick Town, Fort Anderson State Historic Site.
Possible 4 different shipwrecks.
Possible 4 different shipwrecks, yep.
Any sense of which is which so far? I mean, the La Fortuna was kind of the big prize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, in 2024, we found one site that was an intact contiguous shipwreck that we collected wood samples on that indicated that it may represent the Spanish privateer La Fortuna. In 2025, when we returned to Brunswick Town to excavate that site, some catastrophic event happened and the shipwreck was ripped from the riverbed and deposited on shore. This is part of an ongoing coastal erosion problem at the historic site, and during our emergency recovery efforts of the possible La Fortuna site, we identified 3 other shipwrecks located along the waterfront. And so during our recovery and analysis of these individual remains, what we're finding is that the collection of timbers that we have are from probably all 4 of those sites.
Mm-hmm. How do you know? What do you identify? I mean, it looks just like wet wood, no offense. And there's nothing that says, La Fortuna Part A fit here. What do you do once you find it? How do you analyze it?
Right. So what you're going to look at are the various sort of construction features that you see on each individual piece. So you have, for example, this frame that we have here. This sort of matches with an intact section of the possible Fortuna site. So when we found it in the mud, we actually were able to recover at least one of those frames. So we have an idea of the general dimensions of what they should look like. And when we went to go look at the shipwreck itself, there were actually some pieces still there. And so one of the things that we tend to look at is, what are the fastener patterns? What are the overall dimensions? What are some of the characteristics of how the shipwright shaped the timber? And so we have a large assemblage of frames that sort of match with this. You have wooden trunnels, which are basically wooden fastenings. There's some, but not a lot, of iron fasteners on these. And each one of these frames, you can see sort of here how the shipwright used an adze to basically chop the tree branch to form the shape of the frame. And so from that's sort of the qualitative analysis. On the quantitative side, we also take wood species samples, and we send that off to the U.S. Forest Products Service Laboratory, and they come back with species identification. And for the possible Fortuna site, we've been able to sample a selection of those frames, and that is really one of our main lines of evidence to say that this may be La Fortuna, because the wood species came back as either Monterey cypress or Mexican cypress. And the historical or native range of those wood species are limited to California and Central America. So what that tells us is that whoever built that shipwreck or ship used raw materials that were sourced in Spanish Caribbean colonies in the 18th century.
So are these different kinds? I mean, I guess, When you were building your ship, did you get different types of wood for different parts of the ship, or did you just what was there, we'll put it together?
Yeah, yeah. So right now, it's sort of because the site was essentially destroyed, and what we have are the wooden remains. That's really all we have to go off of, and so we use the features of how the timbers are shaped and the fastener patterns within it to sort of determine which vessel each one may represent or be from. And so for, hold on, can we cut? I lost my train of thought.
I was going to say, I mean, are you using different types of wood for, oh, okay.
So yeah, so are you using different types
Yeah,
of?
hold on.
Different timber for different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, different timber for different, guess I didn't ask it real clear. Yeah, different timber for different parts of the ship.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so yeah, you would use
Try it again, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
so you would use different wood species for different parts of the ship. There's actually an example of a shipwreck that was found in Florida where below the waterline, the outer hull planking or the outer skin of the shipwreck was one particular species of wood because it had a natural sort of anti-fouling nature to it. And then above the waterline, they use a different one. So you can sort of make inferences based on different wood species used for different components. And they would certainly use stronger wood species for components of the ship like the keel, the stem or the stern post, which are like the sort of backbone of the ship. And then you may use a different wood species for the frames. And then the planking is different. And so what we're seeing on the possible Fortuna site is that the frames may be this cypress, or some of our other samples also came back as cedar, Atlantic cedar, or red cedar. And a lot of the planking samples that we've been able to collect so far came back as pine. And so as we're sampling the collection of timbers that we've recovered, some are coming back as live oak. And so those are really robust, strong wood species. And so it's really now sort of a puzzle of taking all of that information, taking the information about how, and then really digitizing and looking at the information of how these sort of frames all fit together to sort of piece the puzzle of which ship each timber belongs to.
And what is the goal here? You're probably not going to get enough, recover enough timber to rebuild the ship, or is that the goal? What's the goal here, I guess?
So the goal here is to essentially take the collection and isolate each individual timber and assign it to one of the 4 shipwrecks. And so the way we're going to do that is by meticulously recording all of the details of each individual piece, and then digitally recording it and putting it into CAD software where we can virtually basically take each timber and piece it back together like a puzzle. And so some timbers may fit on, say, the possible Fortuna site, and some timbers may fit on one of the other wrecks that we found. And so it's going to be sort of a process of elimination to sort of isolate which component goes with which individual site.
Mm-hmm. And the same thing I'll ask you on Monday, but why? It was buried in the mud. Who cares? As long as you don't run into it as you're driving your boat along. Why do this?
Well, because
you're obviously into it. You're very into it. Why do this?
So part of the reason why, the possible when we learned that this site may be the possible Fortuna shipwreck, this could be the first Spanish shipwreck really positively identified in North Carolina. So that's number one. It is an incredibly dramatic, and if it is the La Fortuna, it is part of an incredibly dramatic and compelling story of this attack by Spanish privateers on a coastal port town in North Carolina. And so it's a highly significant, potentially wreck, not only to the lower Cape Fear region, but also the state of North Carolina and sort of our national identity. We know from the historical record that La Fortuna was part of a privateering raid that spanned the eastern seaboard. They almost attacked Philadelphia in 1748 before they came back down to attack Brunswicktown. And so this is potentially a really highly significant site from a historical perspective. From an archaeological perspective, and as you can see from these timbers, the level of preservation at Brunswicktown is unbelievable. All of these sites were previously covered under a salt marsh, and that marsh created this anaerobic environment that led to a high degree of preservation for organic materials like a wooden shipwreck.
Right.
And so we have, it's very rare in maritime archaeology that you have frames with the tool marks highly evident on the timbers. And so this is a really unique opportunity to dive into the ship construction of a vessel from the 18th century.
Cool. All right, hold that thought. I'm going to go up and ask him a couple questions up there. If you can get a couple pictures, that would be great. All right.
Stand by. Oh, rolling. Speed. Anytime.
All right. So I'm not sure if my eyes are playing tricks on me or not, but it looks like there are numbers, letters, something.
Yep.
Is that carved in that?
Yes, it is. So right here on this particular frame, and we have actually taken wood species analysis on this. So this is a oak frame.
Okay.
And what you can see here are the Roman numerals V, I. So we're not quite sure why they would mark that particular frame. It's part of the sort of mystery of this, is trying to unravel which site it came from and why they would potentially mark that. We also found actually a barrel stave with the exact same marking on it as well. And so it is a curious mystery, but maybe it is, numbering the certain frame as they're building it. And so that would be common as well.
And then I'm fascinated by, not wood nails, but I guess wood nails. But
Yep.
I mean, look at there's holes here. This is fascinating.
Yep. So on this particular frame, we suspect this is from the possible Fortuna site. And as you can see, you have wooden trunnels or tree nails. And that is sort of a telltale sign in ship construction that you have an 18th century vessel. And the way this sort of would have been placed on the ship is, this is actually the bottom face of it. And what is cool for us to see and have these intact is that not only are you getting how this frame was connected to the hull itself, but you can use these intact trunnels to essentially use the negative space to help you reconstruct the vessel. So this would have been flush with planking. So we can take that measurement and estimate the thickness of the outer hull planking that this frame would have been attached to.
So this would have been under the ship, and the planking would have gone.
Yeah, so you would have had outside planking basically running perpendicular to this, and then these trunnels would be fastened to that, and that would be the outer hull planking, or the outer skin of the ship, of the vessel. And then on the inside, this would have been also planked, and we call that the ceiling planking, even though it's basically the bottom inside of the ship's hold.
And maybe this is just my imagination, but I'm just picturing this, and somebody, some shipwright, correct, just pounding away to drive that in.
Yep. So
Wow.
you would use basically a hand auger to sort of bore out a hole, and then you'd use a mallet and shape the wooden dowel. And This piece here is probably from a different shipwreck, one of the flatboats that we found, but it's a great example of how they would have shaped one end of the trunnel to
Sure.
sort of help them wedge that in there.
And is this, I'm just looking at this, is this tongue and groove? I mean, somebody,
Yep.
another piece of wood went right in here.
Yep. So you would that is basically you're seeing two different forms of joinery on this particular site, and so another plank would have slotted in there, and then this probably went into another wall of some sort.
I'm holding something that someone worked on a couple hundred years ago. That is so cool.
Yep.
I mean, look at the craftsmanship. I mean, that, you know, it's a ship, but still, look at.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
work hard on that.
they would take a lot of time and care into making these vessels, you know, to the best of their ability. And what's unique for us is that some of these timbers also show signs of either like a vernacular building tradition or an expedient building tradition, because you can see sort of the fine craftsmanship of this, you know, tongue and groove. But then again, you have this frame right here where they've shaped one side of it flat,
Oh, they
but
let the other go.
but the other side is the original tree branch.
Oh, wow.
So that's sort of a mystery for us to sort of say, like, is that just part of a, like I said, a particular vernacular building tradition, or is that for expediency, or is that just what they did back then?
There's a little sign that said rush order.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so cool. Do you lose, I know you're an archaeologist and a researcher and everything, but do you still keep in mind, I'm sure you do, that someone built this? I mean, I'm holding something that someone worked hard on, even if it was a rush order.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you have to sometimes, you know, while we were in the thick of it of recovering this stuff, you know, my colleague Jason Raup and I had to sort of step back every now and then, and as we kept finding ship timbers wash up on the beach, and we would look at them and say, oh my God, you can see the cut mark that the shipwright made. Oh, you can look at how this one is shaped. You kind of have to step back and appreciate the fact that it's pretty cool that the last person to touch this was the person that built this vessel almost 300 years ago.
Sure, sure. Good deal. Cool. All right. That was great. That was.
Speed and action.
Yeah. So, so you were going like this. What are you highlighting
Yep.
here?
Yep. So on this frame is actually, we were able to take a wood species sample on it, so it is oak. And you can see here that you have the carved Roman numerals 9, essentially. And so that is indicative of maybe the 9th frame of whatever component this came from, whether that's, you know, part of the actual ribs of the ship or part of like a stern structure like the transom. But it's undoubtedly unique to find carvings on a shipwreck piece, and hopefully we'll be able to track down sort of the greater meaning of that through more research.
Cool. Good deal.
That's great. Roll, stand by, speed, and action.
So this frame is interesting in particular because, as you can see, it is shaped flat on one side, and then this upper face that you can see here, this is the original tree branch surface. You can see a knot in the wood. Yep. And so what that sort of tells us is that, you know, either this is a vernacular or like building tradition or ship construction tradition, or maybe it's an expedient build on whatever shipwreck site this came from. We do think that this may be from the possible Fortuna site, but it's certainly a unique feature.
Yeah. And then flip it over, because this side and then this side's finished.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
You can set it down.
Perfect.
rolls. Speed. And action.
All right, so here you can sort of see the wooden trunnels or tree nails that they use to fasten this frame to the planking of the ship. And what's interesting about having these still intact on this particular piece is that the negative space that you see here is actually the thickness of what the outer hull planking would be. And so the outer hull planking would have basically ran perpendicular to this, and this trunnel would have sandwiched this frame between planking here and then planking on the inside that we call ceiling planking. And that sort of forms the outer structure of the hull of the ship.
And then point out the, so 1, 2, if you can.
Yep, and so you have, so in this one area you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yep.
6.
Perfect.
Just gonna shoot tighter shots. On that one right there. Just point to it.
Yeah, these two, and then have them do the
Okay.
planking again. That was good.
1, 2, and then you can see.
I guess he did.
I'm so tight, that's okay.
Oh. So I guess they did finish this side. This because
Yep,
this looks pretty
yep,
smooth.
yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so what's interesting with this one, I mean,
Speed. And action.
so with this timber, what's interesting here is that you actually have two different types of joinery on it, and we think that this is from probably the flatboat wreck that we found. But I like to point this out because you can see this is a beautiful example of a trunnel and the shaped end of one of those trunnels where essentially you're going to shape to a point, use an auger to drill out a hole, and then use a hammer to wedge that trunnel in, and it really forms a watertight connection.
Oh, and then I'm looking at this, and then then what is this? This looks like what you see on a deck or flooring today. Tongue and groove?
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a tongue and groove join, and it's a common sort of edge joinery that you see on a site like a flatboat. So another plank would have connected here, and then this trunnel probably went into another wall of some sort.
You take it back. I'm close up of the trunnel. And you can point to it.
And just point to the top of it there. Yeah, that's good.
Cut. Good.
Beautiful.
Rolls.
Speed.
And action. Goosebumps. I got goosebumps. Camera rolls and action. More goosebumps. Okay. Camera rolls. Looking at Frank.
I'm sorry, but you have to. All right, so your role, so the artifacts are brought back to the lab. What happens then? You don't just put them on display. What do you do?
It takes many, many years to get something stabilized in order so that it can be safely displayed. Our role here in any archaeological collection in North Carolina is to ensure that that stability happens for the long term. We are the conservation lab for the Office of State Archaeology, and we take in any collection that has been recovered from many different environments, particularly from submerged environments, and apply many different processes so that things can be preserved and studied for generations to come.
So once something comes out of the mud where it's been pretty well preserved, is it going to start decaying right away, or what happens?
Archaeological material, once it is exposed and excavated, it does start to decay quite rapidly. These things have reached kind of a stasis with their environments after being buried for so long. So we really have to act promptly in their best interest to ensure their long-term safety. We work as quickly as possible with the field teams to make sure anything recovered then comes into a proper storage environment. Here in the lab, we have all of these tanks. All of this material requires submerged, stable storage environments to ensure their longevity. If we let things dry out without a very controlled method for handling them, then they will start to decay at a much more rapid pace. So we take years and years of time here in the lab to ensure that these artifacts are stable.
So do you just keep it in fresh water, seawater, keep changing the chemical mix, or just, go to Home Depot and get a bucket of lacquer and just slap that on it? I guess it's a process, it sounds like.
It is a process, particularly with waterlogged wood. There's a several stage process that each object has to undergo. We start with documentation. So again, we work very closely in collaboration with the field team to ensure that all of the research is in place before we in the lab start interfering with something. Followed by photo documentation here. We want to make sure everything is photographed. Then we can start the processes that they need to undergo. The very first stage of that is called desalination. We take the time to remove all of the salt from all archaeological material before it then kind of advances into its next stages. The salt is really one of the most detrimental things for archaeological objects because it drives corrosion in metals, it drives physical decay in organics. If we let anything dry out with salt still present, that salt recrystallizes and expands as it does so. So it puts a lot of physical force on an object. So that is step one, removing all of the salt. The next stage for archaeological wood is to then gradually replace the water with what's called an impregnant to ensure that the cellular structure doesn't collapse as the object then dries. So this chemical process that we use is called polyethylene glycol, or PEG for short. We introduce PEG very gradually into the water baths that these objects are sitting in, monitoring it over time and gradually increasing the percentage until we know that it's at a stable percentage, at which point it's safe to dry out.
Okay, and then the third stage
Is the actual drying,
it out.
and hoping that everything that you did over these many years, this time investment that you made into the preservation of this object, that all went to plan and nothing terrible happens when it dries.
And this probably isn't something you can speed up. It's just going to take time.
Correct. It is very intentionally a slow process. We don't want to do anything that will shock very fragile materials.
Hold on, 1 second. Is that the light?
Oh, the one behind.
Very intentional.
Anytime,
Very slow
Frank.
process. Yeah. Okay. So last thing. So this is something you can't rush. It just takes time.
Conservation takes a tremendous amount of time. We like to say for every day in the field, you can count on months in the lab of conservation work. It is the longest stage of any archaeological endeavor because it is very intentionally slow. We want to do everything that we can to prevent decay, collapse, any detrimental effects as we're working on these things. And we don't want to do anything that will suddenly shock an object and it react adversely. So we do take our time with every process. Desalination is intentionally slow. Impregnation is a slow process. And then the drying, depending on how you're doing that, is very slow. So every stage is an intentional step for us to take towards something's ultimate survival.
Still exciting though? Still fun? Or you're just like, oh, come on.
It's always really exciting. The real discoveries happen here in the lab. We are the kind of the lucky ones behind the scenes, more or less, who get to spend hours and months and years of our lives looking very closely and spending the time with these objects, getting to know them. Excuse me, you want me to start over? Okay, getting hoarse. I'm usually an introvert, so I don't talk this much.
You're the lucky ones.
Okay. We are really the lucky ones as the conservation team, working behind the scenes really, because we get to spend months, years, decades of our lives investing ourselves into each object that we get to put our hands on. We take our work so seriously because we're working toward the preservation of cultural material that everyone in North Carolina and well beyond globally is invested in. So we still are always surprised by the things that we discover as we get to spend this close hands-on time with every object, the stories that we can unearth, the closeness that we get to spend with them, and then seeing our work on display is the most gratifying part of this and being able to be part of that story.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, stand by, please. And action.
All right, guys. So I mean, this knee was one of the first pieces that we encountered when we went down to the beach. What do you guys see on it?
So something that we learned about the construction of the ship is that this sort of groove right here that you can see is called a rabbet. And so that's sort of where the planking of the ship would actually notch in. You can also see a fastener right here. And so it's just kind of evident of how the angle of the planking would have been and where it would have fit in the whole construction of the ship.
So then also we believe this might be a stern knee. This flat part on the bottom would have been at the center line along the keel or keelson. And then this back part right here, this is notched, and then this would be the keel straight.
The stern post.
Stern
Yep.
post. Sorry, I screwed that up.
You can say it again.
All right, the stern, what is it?
The stern post. Yep.
Stern post. But what was that other word you used?
The angle of that you can sort of see. That's essentially the rake of the stern post, or the angle that the stern post would have been, right? And so what that sort of tells us about this ship is sort of how the backbone structure of the vessel was constructed, and so that makes this really a really telling and important piece for what we think is the Wharf 3 wreck.
So right here we can see metal fasteners. It's going through. This would have helped secure that, as well as right here. There's also kind of like a channel. I don't know if you can see that, but that might have had a fastener in it as well.
Sweet. Good deal.
Cut. Sound, speed. And action.
So what you can see right here about the construction of the vessel is that this groove right here, which is called a rabbet, and so that's where the planking of the rest of the ship would have actually fit in. You can see a fastener here too that would have helped secure that. And so that also kind of demonstrates, dang. Okay, maybe I should have stopped, I don't know. Sorry.
Well, at least it's not beeping like the battery.
That's okay, I didn't feel good about that one anyway. Let's do it again. Dang it.
Yeah, right.
And here we go. Take two, action.
So what you can observe here about the construction of this stern knee is that you have this part which is called the rabbet, which is almost like a groove where the rest of the planking would have fit in to the construction of the vessel. And you can also see a fastener that would have held that together. So there we can just sort of observe the curvature and the angle that things would have fit together in this stern portion of the vessel.
I want you to point to the nail or whatever that was. Do it again. Take your hand away. Point. Take it away. Just hold it.
Sorry, I'm shaky.
Speed, stand by 1 second. How's that, Bob?
Yep.
Does this sound good?
You sound great.
All right.
That's okay.
So, if you're to blame for all this.
I
This is one of the original pieces you found.
Yeah, this is one of the original pieces we found this summer. And then last year we also found what brought us back.
It doesn't sound like you were looking for something. You just happened to, hey, what's this?
Yeah, so we were delineating, which is like we were checking like the width of the Wharf 4 site, and we were just trying to figure out where the site ends in the river. And I was working with my buddy Evan Olinger, and he went out a few times, and the conditions in the Cape Fear are pretty rough. There's a lot of current, tide's crazy, there's skaters, and then there's also zero vis, so it kind of looks like Yoo-hoo down there if you've ever seen or drank Yoo-hoo. And he went out and got lost a few times with the tape measure, so we switched and I tried, and I also got lost, and then I stumbled upon just pieces of wood sticking out of the sediment, and there was planking. So after looking at it for a minute, realizing I was lost and had no idea where I was, I went to the surface and I told someone that, hey, there's some weird wood kind of stuff down here. Sorry. And yeah, I don't know. It was pretty overwhelming. I didn't know it was a shipwreck at first. I just was like, this could be part of the wharf. I have no idea. And then when we found out it was a shipwreck, that was pretty cool. It was a pretty big deal for me, just because I was like, it's 3 days before my birthday. So it was a pretty cool birthday present.
So thinking about what you saw then, and now it's not exactly cleaned up, but you can see it a little clearer. What do you think?
About what this piece is, or just in general?
Just what I found and what this has
Well,
led to.
in general, I don't know, like it hit me last year when we said it was a shipwreck, and then it came out that the wood samples from last year were Monterey cypress or Mexican cypress, and so I was like, that's pretty amazing. But it really hit me this year. It's kind of emotional. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I've told anyone else, but I did cry in the woods a little bit when I was walking back by myself, or on the boat when Jeremy and Dr. Raup weren't looking one day, and just realizing that if I didn't stumble upon that last year, it would have been gone, and we would have never came back, and then we would have never found all these other wrecks eroding, or look at this wharf structure that we've learned so much about, or the terrestrial sites. So I don't know, it's just like a crazy, it's more than just a shipwreck. It's, if we didn't get to go back this year, which if we didn't find it last year, I don't know. It's pretty overwhelming. I will say it's I don't know. Right time, wrong place, right time. Dumb luck.
Good, yeah, that was great.
Okay.
That was great.
Cool.
Bob's just getting some shots of that while you're holding it there.
Sounds good. I tried to talk to you more towards the second half.
Yeah, no, you did good.
I was staring at the camera. I know that's a rule.
It's an unconventional interview with you being on the ground.
That's fair. I'm kind of an unconventional guy.
We want you to hold a squat and and hold it out straight.
Yeah, and then I really want you to hold just in one hand, like this.
Yeah.
Cross if you want, that'd be fine.
And cut.
Speed.
So, hundreds of artifacts, you've said.
Yeah.
What do you do with them? What do you hope to learn from them? I guess, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are hundreds of artifacts out on the waterfront, and as we're collecting them, we're recording their location, so we know the context and how they're related to the site, and the different features or shipwrecks or wharves. And then we bring them back to the lab and we try and identify them. So helping identify these types of ceramics gives us times for when they were there, like what does this ceramic sure date to, as well as the cultural affiliation. And so for us, it's really important to know that these are Spanish ceramics, and we are looking at potentially La Fortuna, which is a Spanish shipwreck. And so it helps us piece together the story of what was happening along the waterfront. And we also have classic ceramics related to drinking out of a rum punch bowl and smoking tobacco, the kinds of things that you might associate with a port town or a port of entry.
So it gives you, looking at all this and analyzing it, it's who was there, what was going on.
Who, when, what, where, and how is what the ceramics tell us. They can, material culture can tell you so much about the activities that are taking place, you know, what somebody's social status is, right? What is the status of that, that port town, and the types of materials that are coming in and leaving in terms of import and export.
Okay. So does it make it real?
I think it does. You know, the real part for me is when we first found this bowl, we were like, oh, is that writing? And we couldn't tell because it was stained black from being on the riverbed for so long. But we could kind of see it in the light. And then when it came back to the lab and was conserved, it ends up saying the other bowl and then. And that's a traditional 18th century English custom of drinking rum punch out of a bowl. So it was like passing the rum punch bottle or bowl around and having another sip, and it's sort of that one more before we hit the road kind of custom or activity. And like that to me brings in the person, the people that are living in that space, and you know, this is their daily existence, right?
Perfect. Perfect time. Okay. Doreen, can you, can you
You have your own soundtrack.
And you're just listening to ambient sound. That's
Yeah.
that's frightening. I wonder if all these.
Yeah, you should definitely, when you're finished, we can walk and show you like the really cool safes and places where they like locked the equipment. They're like copper lined. Voices of America.
Talk about it a little bit.
Okay, yeah, so this is the bowl that we found on the shoreline. It was first in two pieces. We found two pieces and now they've been mended together. And the bowl actually says on the inside, the other bowl and then, which is kind of a saying about, you know, having another drink from the rum punch bowl, and then we'll get on to whatever it is that we're getting onto next. And so it was a classic tradition during the 18th century. British folks would pass the bowl around and have a sip of rum punch, and then go on about whatever their business is. On the exterior of the bowl, you can actually see that there is some floral decorations. And these kinds of things help us date the ceramic. So we look at the paste and the decoration on the bowl itself to tell us what time period it was made, but also even we can track it down to who made this particular bowl as well.
So bowl dates to 17?
Yeah, mid 18th century, so mid 1700s, yeah. You can kind of see it's got a little bit of blue. You can see some of the colors, but unfortunately, sometimes ceramics that are submerged in dark waters will take on the tannin and the staining of those. Sometimes they can be removed during the conservation process, but not always.
Sit it back down.
Great.
Good deal. Okay. So the white and blue pieces there looks like a plate bowl.
Yeah, so these were probably a plateau or a Spanish plate form that might have had sort of maybe a higher brim than what we would think of today for a normal plate. But yeah, I would consider both of these to probably be plateaus or plates.
Okay. And so what does that tell us?
So the form itself really just sort of leads to the idea of what they might have actually been doing with these pieces. So these could have been, you know, just typical serving wares that somebody could have eaten off of and enjoyed a meal.
But it's Spanish though, correct?
Yes, so this is a majolica, which is it's a type of earthenware which is enameled, and there are different types of enamelwares from all different countries. There's English Delft, there's Dutch Delftware, and French faience, but this is a Maholica, and we're mostly able to tell that by the color of the paste and also the style of decoration.
And because it's Spanish, does that help confirm anything?
Yes, so it definitely does, and it definitely can. When we're talking about seeing different, cultural origins of these types of artifacts on shipwreck sites, that can certainly be an indication of the origin of the ship. But also, something to think about is that during colonial times, there are all different kinds of trade networks and all different kinds of people sort of living together at different spaces. So things could have been imported from anywhere, but certainly the presence says that there were Spanish ships and there was Spanish cargo in Brunswick Town at the time.
Okay, all right. And what about is there pipe stems?
Yes, so these are stems of tobacco pipes, which would have been used for smoking. These are both made of kaolin clay, which is the same type of clay that is what we would think of as porcelain, except it's just not glazed. So these originally probably would have been more white, but they've taken on some staining from being in the water.
Okay, all right. And the hole tells us something, right?
Yes, so the whole of these pipe stems is actually something that we can use to date the artifact. It's actually known that the size of the hole of the pipe stem decreases as over time because they sort of began to refine the process of crafting the pipe stems. So based on using actually a drill bit and inserting it into the bore and deciding which one fits, you can actually tell how old the pipe stem would be.
That's amazing. Okay, good deal. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, so now
If you would talk about it a little bit?
Hold on.
Talk about it, please.
So this is a type of enameled earthenware, which is called Maholica. It's a Spanish enameled earthenware.
Start again. I'm so tight if you're doing this.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
just kind of hold it.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a type of enameled earthenware, which is called, sorry.
Hold Frank, let's talk it.
Okay. Am I saying everything right?
Yeah, tin enamel.
Tin enamel, that's what I thought.
Here we go.
For this too, like, we are just seeing the plate, so we want you to talk about it.
Okay.
But if you mess up or anything,
Yeah,
like that,
don't
it's
worry
okay.
about it.
Okay, sounds good.
We're not going live.
We can make you say anything at this point.
Exactly. And anytime.
Okay, so this is a tin enameled earthenware, which is called Maholica. It's a Spanish earthenware. There would have been different types of tin enameled earthenwares from all different European cultures at this point. English Delft, there's Dutch Delftware, and French faience. But you're able to tell that this is Spanish Maholica by the coloring of the paste itself and by the decoration. And this specific type of decoration is most likely what we would call Puebla blue on white polychrome.
Set it down. Perfect. Let's pick up the pipe stem, especially the one you talked about
I think it was this
doing
one.
rotor or something with it.
I don't know how to best.
You see,
Display.
you see where
You can
I
just
am,
move it around as well.
yeah, and at some point show the hole
Yeah.
to the right.
Sure.
There you go.
but again, since this is really tiny, if you could hold it steady there. All right, we're rolling at any time.
So this is a kaolin pipe stem. It's made of the same clay that we would think of as porcelain, and this would have been used for smoking tobacco during the colonial period. So something that's actually interesting about these pipe stems is you can see that they have a hole where obviously the smoke would come through, and the diameter of that hole can actually tell us a lot about the date of the pipe stem itself. So over time, as the process was refined of creating these, the holes got smaller. So based on measuring the diameter of the hole with a drill bit, we can tell approximately how old the pipe stem would be.
Let me see the full length again of it, please. You can set it down. Perfect. Cut. That was great. Camera rolls. And action. Rolls, and action.
There we go. Got it.
Okay. Rolls,
Speed.
action.
That's about as far as I can get while still showing you.
And action. The fluorescence. A little like you did before, was that? Go over that way, let me just see where you end up.
So
That works if you hold it like that.
like that.
Yeah. You kind of lower that arm a little bit. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Tilt it because it's glaring right now. Tilt it more. Let me try that. No, it's gonna have to go back around for a second.
Screens and screens.
Everything we have is shiny these days. Everything, all the screens. Camera rolls. Action. That's good. It's gonna get glary. Okay. We got something.
Okay. This is a very weird timber, you said.
Yes.
Why?
So this is a really interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're good.
One more time, yeah.
This is a really interesting frame or component of the shipwreck. It was the first actual piece of the possible Fortuna site that was found. The state underwater archaeologist Stephen Atkinson found it on the beach in 2024, and it's interesting because you have it's notched right here. You have an unfinished face of the timber. It's got those square trunnels that we were talking about. And then the curvature of its three finished sides is just really interesting and different than what you'd expect to see. And so part of what we'd like to do in reconstructing the vessel is figure out how this fits with the rest of the shipwreck.
So even more reason to do the scanning that you're doing. So how does that work? What is that?
Yep. So this is essentially the tool that we're going to use to try to recreate the shipwreck site as it was originally on the riverbed. And what this is a laser scanning device. And this particular laser scanner uses structured light, which essentially it has 3 cameras, and it projects a light pattern onto the surface of an object, and then those cameras pick up deviations in that pattern that's projected on, and then collects not only that geometry information, but also the texture and color of the surface of the object in full 3-dimensional scan that is also scaled. And so by scanning it with devices like this, we can have a full 3D digital reproduction of this original timber that then we can minimize our impact in just handling this and manipulate the pieces of the shipwreck virtually to try to reassemble the site as it would have been.
And I guess you could also, flip it, spin it, turn it, whatever, to look at anything you want.
Yeah, because right now you have it sitting on this table, so you only see 3 faces. When you have a virtual copy of it, you can spin it in full 3 dimensions and manipulate it which way or another, and that's how really we're going to match these fastener patterns to the planking that we see on the hull and piece the puzzle back together.
Kind of a giant Lego set.
Exactly. And so it's really exciting to have this kind of technology and these kind of tools really readily available. And so from a research standpoint, it's really exciting. It's going to help us learn a lot more about the form of the hull of the ship. But also, the products created by this laser scanner are also going to help us with outreach. We'll be able to 3D print these and maybe sell the ship, the pieces of the 3D prints as a puzzle to the public so that they can interact with the site as well.
Perfect. Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're rolling. Anytime.
All right, so this end you can see it's broken off here and then it's notched. So this piece would have been notched onto another piece. And then you have those 3 trunnels, the similar fastenings that we saw on the other frames.
I couldn't see that. I'm gonna move around there so I can see that end.
Yeah.
Rolls and anytime.
So you see this end is broken, but this sort of piece, so this would have continued, and this would have been notched onto another timber, like a frame or some structure of the wreck.
Perfect. Camera rolls. You let me know that. And action.
Okay. So you've scanned and you've put all that data in there, and this is what comes out?
Yep, so once we do the scans of different faces of the timber, we'll input it into the software where, like I said, the software is really intuitive these days, and we're able to take basically both sides of those scans, merge them together until you get one cohesive piece, a complete digital copy of the timber that you see right here next to you. And so we'll be able to take this individual timber and manipulate it however we need to manipulate it, and basically piece all the different component parts back together to form the entire shipwreck.
To hopefully recreate as much as you can.
To recreate as much as we can and see which pieces fit within each individual site as well.
So could you take, this piece and another piece and kind of virtually put them together and see
Yep.
if they fit?
Yep. So basically, this product will allow us. Well, there's different software that we have that's computer-aided design that we'll be able to export from the laser scanning processing software to that CAD program, where we can then annotate, tool marks on this, and also piece together, if this frame fits with that whole plank, or this frame fits with that frame.
Here we go. And action.
Work with me here, buddy. There it is. Oh, well, that scan didn't work out that well. Do you mind
Okay,
if we do it again?
but for us. Cool. We don't need that, right? And action.
Okay, so you've scanned and you've put all that data in there, and this is what comes out?
Yep, so once we do the scans of different faces of the timber, we'll input it into the software where, like I said, the software is really intuitive these days, and we're able to take basically both sides of those scans, merge them together until you get one cohesive piece, a complete digital copy of the timber that you see right here next to you. And so we'll be able to take this individual timber and manipulate it however we need to manipulate it, and basically piece all the different component parts back together to form the entire shipwreck.
To hopefully recreate as much as you can.
To recreate as much as we can, and see which pieces fit within each individual site as well.
So could you take, this piece and another piece and kind of virtually put them together and see
Yep.
if they fit?
Yep. So basically, this product will allow us. Well, there's different software that we have that's computer-aided design that we'll be able to export from the laser scanning processing software to that CAD program, where we can then annotate, tool marks on this, and also piece together, if this frame fits with that whole plank, or this frame fits with that frame.
One last shot with this. Can I move this a little bit?
Okay. Tell me what you want.
I'm going to move this a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Can we move that a little bit over? Just to see a little bit of, there we go.
And I can.
Oh, that's cool.
You like that?
Yeah, I love that.
And I can.
Yeah, don't need to talk. If you can just,
Rotate it.
yeah, manipulate that around. It just looks neat because you see the original piece and that piece. So it's an exact copy.
It's an exact copy, completely to scale, so we can take measurements off of this. We can put it back together, and what's great about it too is that with that computer-aided design software, we can also, like I said, on this three-dimensional version, make annotations on the timber itself that are going to help us say that, say this fastener goes diagonally, this fastener goes straight down, and all of it's going to help us interpret the site.
Good deal.